What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Idlewild and their album 100 Broken Windows, brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Ian. Thank you, Ian. I always enjoy everything that you bring to me. A lot of it I've never heard of. Idlewild I've never heard of, so looking forward to this one. Thanks to all the patrons that make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. Well, I always like to see what the patron has to say. It's their album. They love it. They know it way better than I'm going to know it through research. So Ian says, another 90s band, this time less obscure, because we've handled some obscure ones that are fantastic. The Scottish band Idlewild. I enjoyed their first album proper. Hope is Important. In the 2002, the remote part was released to more critical acclaim. But I enjoyed 2000's 100 Broken Windows, and it remains my favorite Idlewild album. As a massive REM fan, the band's sound chimed with me, and I love this album from the first listen through. Has a grunge / post-Britpop indie punk tinge to it. Another one that didn't make it across the pond. So much good music I talk about all the time, never made it to the States. The event that cements Idlewild in my affections, Ian says, is the 2001 V Festival in Weston Park. Stood at the back of the crowd watching with my mate John and jigging about. Random stranger says to me, "You love this band, don't you?" I say yes, and he grabs me by the t-shirt and literally drags me to the moshing down at the Wrong, past thousands of people. By the end of the set, I was soaked to the skin and deliriously happy. One of those events you never forget, thanks to the random stranger with strong elbows. On to the generally well-received album, 100 Broken Windows. Didn't sell well, only making it to 15 in the UK, went to 6 in their native Scotland, but it was a slow burner and eventually went gold in the UK. Great write-up by Ian. I'll give you a little more background. Idlewild are a Scottish rock band formed in Edinburgh in 1995. The band's lineup consists of Roddy Woomble on lead vocals, Rod Jones on guitar, backing vocals, Colin Newton on drums, Andrew Mitchell on bass, and Luciano Rossi on keyboards. To date, they've released 9 full-length studio albums. This was their second one, as Ian mentioned, released in May of 2000. Musically, the sound of this one has been described as indie punk and was compared to 90s alternative acts such as REM, which Ian said it reminds him of, and Husker Du. Woomble said that the Smiths served as a big influence on the album. The album saw Woomble sing in his own accent in contrast to the previous release where he leaned towards a more American vocal. He said the lyrics reference subject matter such as postmodernism, the Scottish mountains, crofting, and Gertrude Stein. He said the band were improving as songwriters, but, quote, not so much for the album to lose its raw edges. Production on this one by Dave Aringa, which is going to come into play on a couple of the songs. NME 8 out of 10, Pitchfork 8.3 out of 10. Spin ranked this album as #1 on their most overlooked albums from the year 2000. So that's strong praise. All songs are written by Idlewild. And it looks like on this one, as I'm looking at the musicians, Bob Fairfowl is on bass instead of Andrew Mitchell. So maybe Andrew came along later. I don't know, or maybe it's incorrect in the musicianship stuff. But we're going to get into this one. Now, guys, the music's not going to be in here, but there's a Vimeo link below. Follow on with me. Got 12 tracks, but it fits into a nice 38 minutes of one of those that I super enjoy lengthwise. And we're also going to have the lyrics up. Thanks again, Ian. We're going to start off with the opening track, Little Discouraged. Ian said we kick off the album with this track, a great opening track, went to number 24 in the UK. Ian rates every track, which I always enjoy. He rates this one an 8 out of 10. I found that it was the lead single. Its lyrics are intentionally vague, spurred on by the opening lines Woomble had written on its own at the top of his notebook. So let's check out Idlewild. Little Discouraged. What an introduction to Idlewild, right? That was a fantastic song. Guitars almost had a Nirvana type sound, and I don't even hold that against it. No, man, it was fantastic instrumentally. Lyrically, I don't know, man. I mean, I think, I mean, all I need is a little discouraged. It's so catchy, the chorus is, right? There's a 17 contest in my own home. Sick of 17 contests in my own home. I don't know what that means. I try to look it up. That didn't do me any good on Google. A broken violin. Don't cross the road. You're under a spell of broken violins. Then he ran away from his phone. It rings to tell you what the future holds. There's a lack of confidence at home when a 17 contest fills your own home. Somebody tell me what that means. But I think maybe he has a bad home life and getting discouraged. All he needs is a little discouraged. But whatever it's about, the soundscape of it is just fantastic. What a great opener. Now we go to the second track, I Don't Have the Map. Ian says, an underrated song in my opinion, with a catchy chorus, good song to jump about to. 7 out of 10. I won't jump about for it because, I'd be out of the camera otherwise. Otherwise, you'd be in for it. I don't have the map. Just fantastic vocals and guitar work on them. I mean, drumming was great as well. Just a fast pace, 2 minute, 14 second. As Ian said, a good song to jump around to. I think the subject of it is basically you're isolated, right? You're not really on an island, but that's the motif that he uses. He doesn't have the map. Telling him you can't, I don't know if he's talking to himself or talking to somebody with him. You know, you can't cope without the contact. You got to have somebody near you, but there's isolationism there. That's kind of what I take out of it. Just a nice banger of a song. Now, we go to the third track, These Wooden Ideas. Ian says a softer, more balanced song, which progresses well into the chorus, where the organ powers in to step it up with the lead guitar added into a satisfying sound. The third single from the album made a disappointing 32 in the UK charts. 7 out of 10 for Ian on this one. I found it's critical of the music industry and was compared to the Murmur 1983 era of REM. The band borrowed a keyboard and guitar from Teenage Fan Club for the song as they were recording in another room at Rockfield. I am familiar with Teenage Fan Club because I listened to a couple of their albums from the album draft that Trey and I are doing. So let's check out These Wooden Ideas. These Wooden Ideas, guitar work by Rod Jones, fantastic. Very catchy. I don't really know what it's about again. You know, it's critical of the music industry as what the write-up said that I was reading on this article on it. But I don't know, man, these wooden ideas. I don't really know what a wooden idea is. Old ideas, because he talks about postmodern. Don't be real, you're postmodern. Skeptical of everything. So it doesn't really matter what it's about. Very, very catchy. And 3 songs through. We're 4th of the way through already. Love the sound on these guys. Now we go to the 4th track, Roseability. Ian says a distinctive drum beat defined this song. The shouty and angry sounding pre-chorus sounds dissatisfied. The catchy chorus, Gertrude Stein, is one of my favorite parts of the album. The final single from the album only just entered the top 40 at 38, which is a shame, because I think it's the best of the 4 songs released as singles. But what do I know? Ian says 8 out of 10. And obviously, this is the one that Womble said was inspired by a poem by Gertrude Stein. Roseability, man. The drumming by Colin Newton, the star on this one for me. I mean, I think Ian hit it on the head here. The distinctive drum beat defines this song. The pre-chorus sounds dissatisfied. The catchy Gertrude Stein chorus is one of his favorite parts of the album. I agree with all of that. I mean, I just thought it was done really, really well. Their sound is just fantastic, right? It's energetic, man. Every song seems like it's a minute and a half long. It's not, but I mean, it seems that way. And that's a high compliment. And the roseability, because Gertrude Stein said, a rose is just a rose. Things are just what they are. So, you know, it is what it is. In other words, as we say it in today's vernacular. So he says in the lyrics, stop looking through scrapbooks and photograph albums because I know they can't teach you what you don't already know. Trying to kind of look at your past to try to figure out your future, that doesn't work. You'll always be dissatisfied. Ooh, you don't want to hear that, do you? Really good song. Now up to the 5th track, Idea Track. Ian says, completely different feel of this song. Meanders into bridge. Then we were carried away with the lovely chorus. Pretend it works a while. Let's transmit it live. Pretend it works a while. It's one of those songs I can put on a loop when trying to get some work done or an essay finished. It has energy and momentum. My overall favorite track on the album, though I prefer parts of other songs, a 9 out of 10. Now, I found when working on the song, Womble wanted to play along to it to come up with potential lyrics, to which Aaron, the producer, said he'd give him an idea track. The song Idea Track was subsequently named after this and deals with optimism. Guitarist Rod Jones said it was the band's first attempt to write a track while at the studio. The chorus sections came about as Womble was unable to settle on a melody that he enjoyed, so Aringa combined all 6 existing vocal takes into one. The bridge section features a violin performance from Rod Jones. They just found the violin in the studio, so good story behind this one. Idea Track. Just a really different song, man, right? I didn't know what I thought of it because like the very first parts of it, you can't understand it, right? You're like, what? Dear Hugh Miller, I've thought it through for a while, but it doesn't get any easier. 3 months on in this bad design will make it feel any easier. Your grave, it's your grave. And then the next one is 4 months from now when we started and nothing feels much easier. I sit and stare in a cork-tiled room and it doesn't get much easier. Your grave, it's your grave. I have no idea if that's what it really says. I tried to hear that in there. I really couldn't hear that in there, but that chorus. That chorus is the catchiest thing on this album so far. Pretend it works a while. So, and then the violin at the end, and then we kind of get the whispered out weird stuff at the end. I mean, I dug it, man. I liked it a lot. It's gonna reward repeated listens as well, man. It's just a different, interesting song. Now we're up to Let Me Sleep in parentheses, next to the mirror. Ian says a more melodic song, less than noisy song, uses the soft, loud dynamic well. I always like that. Roddy uses his voice very effectively here. Shows you don't need to be a virtuoso to create engaging songs. 7 out of 10. Let Me Sleep Next to the Mirror. Definitely more melodic, like Ian said, and they actually did it quite well. I mean, I thought they pulled it off quite well. I think the vocals by Roddy are good, and you, as Ian said, you don't need this great voice to pull this kind of song up. The guitar work by Rod always is the basis of these songs so far for me. That just, it holds the songs up. It's the constant in there. What the song's about, it's obviously about him and his significant other, and kind of like how they don't want to look themselves in the mirror, the significant other. They don't really want to know what the reflection. Talks about 10 more years of this. And he starts out, I woke up first this morning. I've never seen the dawn, but I know what the world looked like before. How would I know what you said? You're always first to go to bed. You're intent on sleeping it off. So she drugs, alcohol, or just sleeping off the depression or her attitude. I don't know. Let me sleep next to the mirrors. I know you don't like mirrors when they reflect on you. So a person who's not introspective, who never wants to look at their own fault, is an infuriating person to be around, right? Because they know they're always deflecting and they never grow, and it's just it'll drive you crazy. I've been in those situations before. So I thought a really good offering. Halfway point of the album. Next up is Listen to What You've Got. Ian says you can see why Idlewild were compared to REM listening to this. The call and response, the stripped back lyrics, quite effective song, but lyrically doesn't go anywhere for me, Ian says. Ian gives it a 6 out of 10. All right. Listen to What You've Got. It's a 2.5-minute song, right? But it's got a lot of stuff going on in it, right? Because it starts out, and I even piped in during the song, and I try not to talk during the song so you can just listen to it and listen to the lyrics and listen to the music, but it definitely sounded like it could have been REM the first minute of the song, like the sound, even Roddy's vocal delivery. But then it kind of shifts into this punk thing as it just manically finishes out, and it even fits the punk vibe with the 2-minute, 32-second song. I have no idea what it's about. There's a few of these songs I had no idea what it's about. And if you watch this channel, you know I'm a big lyrics guy, but REM's one of my favorite bands of all time. Murmur's one of my favorite albums of all time. And almost all the lyrics on Murmur don't make any sense, right? So at times it's just about the song and the melody and the vibe, man. So I actually think I like this more than Ian does. I just liked everything going on with it. Got another short song coming up. Actually, it's Darkness. Ian says, back to the quiet verse and loud chorus. Another track where I enjoy the percussion as it catches my ear above the other instruments. Roddy's Scottish accent works well here when singing the soft parts. Second single did slightly better than Little Discouraged, making it to number 23. He ranks it a 7 out of 10. All right. Actually, it's Darkness. Also a little punky to me. Not just with the length of it, but driving guitar in there. I do agree the drums were fantastic in there from Colin, with the guitar from Rod as a star on this. And Roddy's delivery is quite good in here. I don't know what it's about. I think he's speaking to his significant other, right? And the darkness, the kind of actually it's darkness that he's scared of, and that they're scared of. You shed a shade of shyness. That chorus is so catchy. I don't have any idea what it means. Why can't you be more cynical? I knew the winter would protect me from it. One box of film won't make it all cold. I thought that the winter could hide me from everything. I'm just too gullible for words. So I don't know, man. I don't know. If we speak the same language, you're a deeper, darker reason you shed a shade of shyness. But a really catchy song. Works well in the album. Now we're up to the longest song on here, Rusty. I mean, it's not long. It's a little over 4 minutes. But Ian said, as an 80s feeling intro verse, which is the best part of the song for me, the angry, shouty chorus is fine, but does not resolve for me, and the song tails off in an unsatisfying way. Could have been a better song if they developed the You Look Worn Out part. 6 out of 10 for Ian. Ian's given this back part of this record little tough grading here. Rusty. I gotta tell you, that's the first song on here. That song didn't work for me in any way, shape, or form. I do agree with Ian that the first part is definitely the best part. I didn't like it just, none of it seemed to fit together. It all just seemed to be off kilter, which sometimes works, but for this, it didn't for me. The guitar work didn't work. Not that Rod was doing a bad job, it just didn't fit. None of it fit. It's like an unfinished song to me, but that's just me, man. But you look, I wouldn't sing this to anybody, this first verse, right? You look worn out more and more each day. With every step and every page, you look worn out. And then after that, it gets into that. You're Croft dated back to the beginning of the century. And that's where that guitar work comes in. It's just, I don't know, man. What are you looking for? You'll never get close. You definitely don't know. You're not original. You definitely don't know. You definitely don't know what you're about. So don't sing this song to someone, boys and girls, unless, it's somebody that you don't care for. We're going to move on to an interestingly titled song, Mistake Pageant. Ian says, simple and short song, nice harmonies in the chorus, step up from Rusty, gives it a 7 out of 10. The story behind this, during one weekend, Ringo was working as a sound engineer for a Manic Street Preacher show. So the producer's not in the studio, but the guys are. Idlewild got drunk in the studio, attempting to cover Save Tonight, the 1997 song by Eagle-Eyed Cherry, and wrote Mistake Pageant in the process. So that's probably why it's named that way. Good story. Mistake Pageant. I think Colin's drumming and Rod's guitar work just create this nice, almost riff melody type thing going on in the background. I think they're at a party. They could be looking out over the crowd in a concert. Who knows, at this Mistake Pageant, as Roddy puts it. And I couldn't stand up looking at the faded party. It was a mistake pageant right from the start. But it's unsuitable to laugh like the others. Couldn't stand up looking at them at a faded party. I couldn't stand up looking at a famous party. So because you've had bad luck, and I know what it feels like to have bad luck, you can't open your eyes. It's vain, or is it just fame? So it very well could be reflecting this abstract thing about standing there on the stage in concert. I don't know. Or you could just be at a party with a bunch of negative losers. Who the heck knows? Got 2 tracks left. We'll go to the penultimate track. Quiet Crown. Ian says another generic Idlewild song. Not a skip, but nothing special. 7 out of 10. I read in another review, like the album closer, which is coming up next, obviously, the bronze medal. It's dedicated to the band's native Scotland. The title refers to Scotland's position in the good north, perched like a crown at the top of Great Britain, and to the country's characteristic iconic nature. I don't know if that part's true or not, but that's what somebody said, so I thought I'd share. Quiet Crown. I kind of agree with Ian. It's just a generic Idlewild song. Not in a bad way. I mean, it fits on this album. It's very pleasant sounding. I was trying to do a bunch of research during this song. I couldn't come up with an answer. I want to fly a little to the right. I'll never get to Crowsdale. And I want to stay awake all night to realize I'm not Ben Hoy. I see that you can go back as far as Google groups from the early 2000s and see what people considered and contemplated what exactly Crowsdale and Ben Hoy are, presumably their physical places. I couldn't come up with anything either. Just one of those weird things that you see, and then you're like, I got to find the answer to what this is. But what should I take with me to the north? It's the good north. Apparently you're happy. You realize I'm meant to be unhappy. I've realized I'm not Ben Hoy. Maybe Ben Hoy's a friend of his and just a code word for that, or the guy's real name. I don't know. And then I want to reunite, I'll never save. When everything is broken, I want to reunite, I'll never save. Everything is broken. I want to fly a little to the right. So I don't know. I want to reunite, I need to save. When everything is broken, now they repeat that 4 times towards the end, and then everything's gone now. So everyone's gone running without a sound. I don't know, man. I was just curious about what it meant. Maybe it means nothing, and they're just messing around with this going. I wonder how many people are going to search this and try to figure it out. All right, let's go to the last track, the bronze medal. Ian says more acoustic and nostalgic sound to close out. One of the strongest songs on the B-side. Nice concept for the song. 8 out of 10. I found it has some similarities or recalls All Apologies from Nirvana in 1993. Bronze medal, a different way to finish this album out, and I really did like it. I thought it worked quite well. Much more chilled out. I thought Roddy sounded excellent on it. More melancholy lyrics. It felt cold outside, so we threw the radio onto the fire. It felt good to watch it burn away to nothing. You said you felt weak. I hope it's got nothing to do with the things you told me. Nothing but your eyes looking down on the third place. You've got nothing but determination to come in third. You're always going to be like this when it's somewhere that's as cold as this. You were always meant to be like this in the cold. It felt warm inside, so we threw the television on the fire. So we started out throwing the radio, now we threw the television. It was in frustration because I had nothing to throw away. You were always meant to be like this. That's how it finishes. You're always meant to be like this. You're always meant to be. So a really good final offering there. Before we get to my favorite tracks, let's see what Ian has to say about his favorite tracks. He says, there's no outstanding song on the album, but Idea Track, Bronze Medal, and Rosability are my favorites. So I think he's right on that. I don't think there's any standouts on here. But I'm going to have 2 honorable mentions. I'm going to have Rosability and Listen to What You've Got. My 3 favorites are Little Discouraged, the first song, Idea Track, and the last song, the Bronze Medal. So 5 out of the 12 get that treatment. Now I'll go to my overall score, but first we'll get Ian's final thoughts. He said a pretty good album with a stronger A-side. I agree with that. The B-side is saved with a strong ending track. It stands up well to the other end of Britpop era, late 90s, early 2000s albums, and is a post-Britpop indie punk feel. It was fun listening to the album again to write this up, and although it feels of its time and genre, I didn't get bored or want to skip to the next track at any point. I agree with that as well. He said overall we give the album an 8.25. I'm going to be right there with it. I'm going to give this album an 8.0. I liked every song except for Rusty. That was the only hiccup for me. But all the other songs I either thought were pretty good or really good. They all sound pleasant. I didn't want to skip anything except for Rusty. But hey, maybe that song would grow on me as well. So thank you to Ian for bringing another band that I did not know. And guys, let me know your favorite tracks below. What other stuff I should listen to from Idlewild. And until next time, guys, I will see you.